Welcome. Have you heard of a metal called vanadium? Well, if you haven't, we're here to tell you all about it and its uses. I'm Nozi Pombandra, and this is Resource Watch. Let's kick off with the market wrap for this week.
Sibanye Gold, the world's best performing producer of 2014, has increased production output by 8.5%, but it has seen a 35% drop in profit because of a lower gold price. Sibanye has also slashed production costs by 10%. Lonmin, the world's third largest platinum producer, has unveiled a 546 million rand share transaction with the Bapo Bamokhale community, as well as a 100 million cash payment. The deal will see it secure a 26% black economic empowerment target by the end of this year. And Rio Tinto is ending its ill-fated foray into Mozambique's coal sector, selling Rio Tinto Coal Mozambique for $50 million to India's International Coal Ventures. The sale includes the Benga coal mine and other projects in Tete province.
Vanadium is mainly used in steel manufacturing, but the discovery of a new use in energy storage has the technology and energy world abuzz. And South Africa is currently among the world's top 3 producers. I'm joined now by the Chief Executive Officer of Bushveld Minerals, Fortune Mujapelo. Fortune, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us today. So it seems as if vanadium is presenting some unique opportunities for the group. Maybe talk us through some of these.
Look, we have a project up in Limpopo, in Mokopane, which is a phenomenal resource from a vanadium point of view. We just recently released a scoping study last week outlining the high-level economics of this project. As a resource, it is one of the best you will find in the country, and dare we say in the world, from a point of view of its vanadium grades as well as the economics of the entire project. We're excited about it. We're excited about the commodity vanadium itself, which we think has an incredible future.
But let me take a step back and maybe let's get you to maybe break it down. What is vanadium? Where do we see it in our everyday lives?
So 90% of the world's vanadium usage today is mainly in the steel sector. Vanadium has got that unique capability of being able to add enormous strength to steel, and it allows for a given level of strength that you need in a steel. You can do that with much less mass. So it's a strengthening additive.
But we're talking about an alternative use now in terms of these of what you're proposing to your investors.
No, actually, look, the vanadium demand is underpinned largely by the steel sector at the moment. Now, we think going into the future, the steel sector is going to continue to be a very important source of demand for vanadium. And we can talk about a number of things that are happening in the market around construction and around steel that actually present significant opportunities for vanadium producers, not least, for example, the changes that are happening in China, which where the government's directives there are looking to phase out low-strength steel in favor of higher-strength vanadium-containing steel in the manufacture of rebar. The rationale is because higher-strength steels are important for construction of infrastructure, high-rise buildings, as tensile strength. So those directives alone, for a given amount of steel production in a year, we think we will see a significant uplift in the vanadium demand. But beyond that, we are quite excited about the opportunities that the vanadium, the energy storage space present. We think that has potential of presenting a step change in the demand for vanadium.
What does that mean for renewable energy initiatives, not only for South Africa, but globally?
So if we talk energy generation in general, because by the way, when you're talking energy storage, you're not just talking renewable, you're talking energy, the energy space in general. When you build power generation capacity, what you do is you size it for your peak demand. but we all know that there are moments where you've got low demand and you've got high demand. Your ability to store power during the low demand periods, which you can use to supplement your existing power sources during the high demand period, is great to have, because it means that you can hold back your capital investment in additional power generation. It helps, it leads to a much more efficient capital deployment into power generation. So in normal power generation, you need energy storage solutions. In the renewable space, even more so, because the nature of renewable energy, whether it's solar or wind, it's intermittent. You do not generate power when it's at night, when you don't have the sun or when you don't have the wind. So your ability to store power when you generate it and then link it to the grid is quite critical.
It certainly sounds like a game changer for the energy deficiency that we have on the continent. But you've just returned from a recent trip in London where you were presenting this very opportunity to a range of investors. What was the reception like? And in particular, does it sound like the investment community has an appetite for this kind of initiative?
There's a lot of excitement around vanadium, and it's quite easy to understand why, given some of the factors that I've outlined. Vanadium redox batteries, which is the technology around energy storage, and it's not the only energy storage solution there is, but it is certainly emerging as one of the more preferred ones for a number of reasons. But the vanadium redox batteries are well suited to high capacity energy storage. They are well suited to linking up with the grid. A lot of these messages are starting to filter through, get understood, and so when you go into the market today with a vanadium project and one that has a fairly clear path to production ahead of you, it's going to elicit quite a lot of excitement.
Well, let's move on to broader issues. Looking at Bushveld Minerals, one is quite surprised to realize that you actually don't have a listing here in South Africa, but you have a presence on the AIM in London. Is there a particular reason why we don't see you listing on the South African bourse?
We listed in March 2012. At the time, all we had was a resource of about 633 million tons of iron ore and a small tin deposit. The reality is that at that level, when you're still an early stage explorer, our experience has been that the capital markets in South Africa are not well geared for that. I mean, that's an entire opportunity space in its own right. But as you develop your projects closer towards production and where you start to see earnings, we think that South African capital markets are very receptive to propositions such as ours. Very
quickly, Fortune, before I let you go, South Africa, there's a big cloud right now about the attractiveness of the country as a mining investment destination. We're seeing the likes of Anglo-American divesting in some of their key assets that they've had in the country. What is the general perception of South Africa now as a mining investment destination?
Look, any headlines that go into the press are going to catch attention. So if there is a strike, the investors are going to make note of it, and they're going to want to know what's happening with that. I think from our point of view, the first important aspect is legislation. We think that our mining law in South Africa is generally quite robust. I think relative to other markets that we've seen in the continent, for example, we think we've got a fairly solid mining legislation in place. But the mining environment, in terms of the labor environment, in terms of power availability, in terms of issues that came in the past around beneficiation, which we know there was a lot more around, the rhetoric, not beneficiation, so around nationalization.
Yes.
Those are buzzwords that, sometimes create challenges for junior miners like ours. But having operated here for a long period of time, we're fairly confident that, we have one of the best jurisdictions to develop mining projects in.
Fortune, thank you so much for making the time to join us on Resource Watch and, of course, giving us all that insight into vanadium opportunities.
Thank you very much.
You may or may not know this, but most steel products we encounter daily, like taps, spark plugs, nuts and bolts, they all go through a process called electroplating. Now, electroplating is coating steel products with zinc to prevent corrosion. We visited a lab where it all starts.
Corrosion protection is a large factor in the electroplating industry. Your electroplated corrugated sheet roofs on houses, on low-cost housing, would probably last maybe half the lifespan, maybe even less than that, being studied in the elements. Certainly things like vehicle components at the coast, because of the salt spray in the sea atmosphere, they wouldn't last anything like the length of time that they do after being electroplated. It's used for decorative applications. For example, can you imagine going into your bathroom and your taps look something like that? But after they've been copper plated, nickel plated, with chrome on the outside, so it's a 3 deposition finish, it's chrome plated, and that's the taps as we know them in our bathrooms, not like that finish. And yet another industry that electroplating is widely used in is the manufacture of printed circuit boards, also known printed wiring boards. The base material is sheet copper that's coated with photographic film. Then these little patterns are developed into it, and those tracks are plated onto it. The lab is, in this industry, the heart of the business. Control of those solutions to make them plate at the correct speed, the correct hardness, and all those things is controlled right here. This is the customer's copper electrolyte. As you can see, I'm immersing the sheet into it. That's the piece of copper metal connected to the positive terminal of the DC power supply, commonly known as a rectifier. I'm now connecting the job to the negative terminal. Air bubbles sticking to the part and causing little pit holes, little pinholes on the mark. Just need to rinse it in water to make sure that the acid doesn't stain the deposit. All electroplated parts have to be rinsed thoroughly. Water usage is a main concern in the electroplating industry. And that would be a deposit that a customer would be quite happy to find on his work. You can see the base brass and the copper, the red copper colour of the deposit, electroplated. Technology is moving on from being just zinc plated to being alloyed with nickel metal, which gives it even greater corrosion protection. So the electroplating industry is really moving forward. It's an industry that goes back over 200 years and is certainly going to be with us for at least the next 200 years. Technology, plastic isn't going to replace electroplating yet.
That's it for this week's show. Do stay in touch, following me at Nozi Pombandra, and remember that our show's hashtag is #ResourceWatch. Until next time, it's goodbye for now.